On this episode, I'm going to be talking about portrait photography and the best tips and tricks that I have for taking portrait photography on Instagram. Coming up. Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Dean Tucker, aka Visual Rev, and welcome back to How to Instagram, the series where I show you how to grow active, engaged, and genuine Instagram following. Today I'm going to be talking about portrait photography and what portraits work best on Instagram. So let's get into the tips. Firstly, you got to know your location and what your surroundings are. Try and find a good background for your subject. Try to keep it simple and not too complicated or something that'll take away from the focus of the subject. When it comes to getting a model for your portraits, you can just ask one of your friends, your family members, the person you're taking a photo with, or even somebody random on the street. So when you've got your model and it comes to actually taking pictures of them, you're going to want to kind of analyze the person and see what angles work best for them and for you. So try to get high angles, low angles, from the side, anything you can. I found that wide angles work best on Instagram, where you try and get a bit of the landscape as well in the shot. A good example of a portrait master on Instagram is a guy I follow called Samuel Elkins. His work is fantastic. But anyway, using Sam as an example, most of his pictures on Instagram are portraits of models against a really cool landscape. And by using this wide angle, it allows for the viewer to see the landscape, even though it's blurry and out of focus most times. It just connects the person with the landscape and gives you the overall feel and vibe of the photo. So like I've said, portraits with a bit of breathing space on the side gets the best result. My personal opinion to what looks best on Instagram. Honestly, I feel like the typical model shoot style photography on Instagram, where it's really tight and close up, I feel like that doesn't work as well, especially shooting it in portrait mode that tight, where if you look at it on your feed, it kind of like crops out the main focus of the picture. So stick to getting the person in a square of the photograph so that when you post it on your feed, you can see the person clearly framed in the square. The next thing I want to talk about is depth of field. So most of the time I use a shallow depth of field, which is a lower aperture, and this allows the background to be really blurry and keep the subject nice and sharp and in focus. Another really cool tip to use when taking portraits is to use things such as leaves or branches or sticks or anything else just to create a greater sense of depth. Another one is using flowers to do the same thing. Take lots of photos. I know that a lot of old school style photographers will say that they shot on film and you only had so many shots to get the perfect picture, but we live in this digital age now. You can do it with your iPhone or your DSLR. Take a few pictures and see which one comes out the best. You don't want to be stuck after editing wishing that you would have taken more. It's like taking a selfie. No one just takes one selfie and posts it. Like really, who does that? So take a lot of photos, get a lot of different angles and perspectives and different poses from the model, and then when you're editing, choose the best ones. Probably the most important thing about portrait photography is having good lighting or controlling the light that you're using. I always say that the best light is natural light, and you want to make sure that you always have a nice flat gradient on the face. Like right now I'm using natural light. There's a massive window behind the camera right now, so it creates a nice flat gradient on my face with no harsh shadows. That's what you'd like to get most of the time for portraits. The best weather for shooting portraits is when it's nice and overcast, so that just acts as like a massive softbox, which is great for portrait photography, and it doesn't create any harsh shadows. But then again, shadows can create a really interesting visual aspect to the photos. One of my favorite portrait photographers is actually from South Africa. His name is Zeno Peterson. He is probably the best portrait photographer in South Africa in my eyes. So he uses shadows and contrast quite a bit in his photos, and they are all amazing. So he's definitely a good example to check out for portrait photography. What I found that works quite nicely is when you incorporate accessories into the shot. So anything like hats or scarves, where you're adding something extra to the model to create the sort of vibe that you're wanting to create. The last thing that I think is really important is when the model has eye contact with the camera. This ultimately creates eye contact with the end viewer and just creates a better connection with the picture in general, I think. I'm not saying that all your portraits have to be of people looking directly into the lens, but it definitely can help in creating that human connection with the end viewer. So yeah, that is my tips for portrait photography. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something about portrait photography. Please leave your tips about portrait photography, I'm saying that so much, in the comments below, and I'll be sure to check them out. Or if you have any questions about portrait photography, leave them in the comments below, and also any suggestions of future videos that you want to see from the series. Also, just a quick extra, make sure to check out my blog, which is visualrev.com, to see the blog post for this episode and to see all the pictures and infographics that I spoke about in this video, and to share it with your friends of the world. So boom. Again, thanks so much for watching this series of how to Instagram. If you have any friends that you think would be interested in this series, please share it with them, tag them in the comments below, and share it on all your social media platforms. In the meantime, remember to keep on shooting and creating awesome stuff. I'll see you guys in the next one. Okay, bye. It's a new video, it's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life, and I'm feeling good. Yo, I can't sing. On this episode, I'm going to be talking about portrait photography and the best tips and tricks that I have for taking... Slater, get off! Off! The last thing that I think is really important when it comes in portrait. Yo, I can't talk now. Boom! Oh, that was cool.